Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
You're listening to the podcast, so there I was. This is episode 175. You fly by your seat in your ears.
Perfect, right? Yeah. I mean, what better way to fly, when you think about it?
Yeah.
Hey, quick admin note. We want to say right up front, thank you to Matt Loco Loyacono. I think that's how you say your name. It is now, Matt. So,
That's where we're at.
Let's face it, you screwed up. You trusted us to get it right. So, Army pilot who cracked open his wallet and put $100 in our coffers to keep this show coming to you. And we're excited to do that.
That's outstanding.
We've got Booz this week.
We got Booz.
Yeah. A new CFI.
Yep.
One of my favorite daughters. Okay, my only daughter. And
yep. It's your favorite.
Yeah. I thought a really pleasant surprise. I know she speaks well, but it was fun to have her on the show and listen to her talk about her path from flying gliders on weekends to becoming a CFI.
While you were footing the bill for that, she's actually experiencing and living it. And so having her on was just awesome. It was great to, hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, that, what was her path like? Not, of course, saying that she's a horse, but you know what I mean.
I mean what you know. But, I mean, here was the cool thing. We talk about flying the transcontinental trip in a Grumman Tiger together. And some of it I knew she was impressed by, and some of it I knew she was overwhelmed by. But it was really interesting to hear her relate what that trip did for her as far as her perspective, and to find out it really did help her a lot more than I ever realized in her path to getting her tickets and understanding how the air traffic control system in the country works and all of that good stuff. So that was kind of cool. Yeah.
And that story I am completely jealous of, because I would hope at some point that I would have the opportunity to do something like that with my kid. So
yeah, cool. I got to say that was a privilege of a lifetime to get to do a transcontinental trip in a light civil with my daughter, and to watch her learn and grow from it. And I learned and grew from it as well as a pilot. I hadn't done that much civil aviation in a long time. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. And all the challenges that one faces in their path to becoming a CFI. She did a 141 flight school. She started off, She got her private in our airplane, but then did a 141 flight school. So interesting to learn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, we've had this trend of having super experienced, really, high time aviators with lots of experience and lots of time doing stuff. And it was awesome, I think, in a way, to get somebody on who is at the beginning of their career. She cracked a little over 400 hours now, and that's relatively low time in an aviation career. Yeah. But we were all there at one time.
Oh, absolutely. And it's fun to hear that. And I hope some people listening to this take away that, this is still doable. Is it expensive? Yeah, it's an expensive process. Unless you go to the Air Guard and let Uncle Sam pay your training.
Pay for it, yeah.
Or another military branch, then sure, it's going to be expensive. But it's not undoable, and it is. And
there's scholarships, and there's support. And so, and this also should also kick open the door a little bit for, anybody who had, let's say you've had a recent accomplishment and you want to share it, We'll come up with a way to get it out there. So
there you go. Right on. We can do short segments like we did with the watch a couple weeks ago. So All right. Well, I think it's time to get out of the way and hear what Booz has to say. So until next week, don't forget to stand up for yourself against your flight examiner.
Here's a true story about crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit, on the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the...
So there I was, I was on my commercial check ride on the wrong side of the pattern in a class Gulf airport with a fake emergency and the only plane in the area because there were thunderstorms rolling in.
And that is how all amazing aviation tales begin. This is Styx. You're listening to So There I Was. We have a special guest here.
Yeah, greetings, everybody. RePete here, coming to you from New Hampshire, as is Styx. Our guest today is from New Hampshire, but currently down in an undisclosed location in Florida. And I've known her for 22 years now, going on 23. Once held her on her birthday in my right forearm, head to toe. And I'm proud to welcome my daughter, Booz. And we'll get into that call sign here in a little bit. Yeah, Booz is a recent certified flight instructor. And we're going to talk about what it's like to become a pilot these days. Booz has recently completed her path all the way to CFI and has a ways to go before she either does military or airline or corporate. Wanted to get people who are on the edge of, should I do something like this? Shouldn't I? Hear what it's like. Hear what that path and journey is like. Not always easy, but
there's always a bump in the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly.
Always doable. So, Booz, do you remember the first time you flew? I know you don't.
The first time I flew on like an airliner? No, I do remember.
Yeah, you were 3 months old. What's the first flight you do remember? Yeah.
The first like GA flight I remember, so not on an airline, is one of your buddies took us up in his Mooney, and I sat in the back, and I took all sorts of pictures of like our hometown. That was it. That was the introduction.
Very cool. We've had Sal on. Sal did that. Sal is a tanker aircraft commander again because he's lost all. Sal, you're going to lose your medical. You keep doing that. Just saying, Yeah, so that was cool. So is that when you got the bug? When did you get the bug to start actually go, you know what? I could do this.
So I don't think I saw the connection. I was 11 when that happened. I don't think I saw the connection yet of like, this is something that I could do, one, and that two, this is something that I can do as a career that will like serve me for, the rest of my life essentially. Until I was 14, we went to Franconia with some friends from school, and there's the Franconia Soaring Club. And I started flying gliders there, and I was like, wow, this is so much fun. This is really cool. And they had a great student program. They really encouraged us to come back. They really helped drive us to want to solo, to want to be better glider pilots and learn how to soar on the ridge and find thermals and like do gliding to like its fullest potential. And so that was really it, was I started flying gliders, and then I was like, I want to do this. And then I went and I soloed, and it's so quiet. When you release from the glider, you pull, so you get towed up by another plane, right? You have no engine, so you are attached with a rope. You pull the hook, and it makes a like snap, and then it's so quiet. The plane flies away, and it's just like the wind. So
it's an amazing experience.
Yeah. So being 15. I can't even drive a car alone. And now I'm in this plane with no engine, just me, flying solo. And that was like.
So
awesome.
For those watching, they just saw, and you can go watch it on our YouTube channel. You just saw Becca's very first solo landing in a glider, and her proud papa yelling at the end. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was like so memorable. And I mean, actually that's the only time anyone's ever like cut my like shirt tail or whatever. So that's still up in Franconia.
So you were 15? Yeah, 15 years old. Yep. First time you soloed an airplane by yourself. So very cool.
Again, couldn't drive the car. Couldn't do all that. Allowed to fly alone.
You had to have your
no
dad
engine.
drive you home from the airport.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, he did.
So very cool. All right. Do you here's a fun story from that day. Do you remember your checklist, by the way, in the glider? Do you remember what that in?
I know I had. I think it's like A A B B C C D or something. Like that's all it is. And it's like I don't know if that's it. That's probably not it. Don't listen to that. But but it was something like that. And it was like, I don't know, like
You almost didn't solo that day,
seat
did you?
belts. No, the instructor's stipulation was that I needed to do the checklist. And it was to the point where I was like, what if I like wrote it down my arm? So from elbow to the top of my hand said checklist in Sharpie that day. So I feel like I remember I did the checklist on the solo. The checklist is really simple. It's like put your seatbelt on. There's no flaps, we're not worried about big stuff. But, I needed to do it.
Yeah, but you still had a lot to learn. Tell us what that's like, because you don't get to go around if you don't like what you're seeing in front of you, as you do when you have a motor up front helping you along.
Yeah, so there's some great tricks from flying gliders that came in extremely handy all the way until my CFI check ride. So just that energy management, right? Like you don't get to go around. So if something's wrong, you got to fix it. You got to figure
committed.
out where, you are committed. You're going to land definitely somewhere, right?
Yep.
So how do we make it something survivable, safe? The plane is okay, you're okay. Ideally we're on like a runway or like an airport surface. That's the goal. There was one time where every morning we would all get together and do like a brief. And usually it was like the students would talk about the weather and stuff. And then the instructors for the day would like talk about different procedures, different things that were going on. And other people who had like their own private gliders would come sit in, like listen to all the information. And so there was one day where at this point I was solo in the single seat, the 126. And I'm probably 15 at this point too. And they're explaining, two instructors are having a conversation about what the best practice is to use the opposite runway from the runway that I had not used this runway really, because it was the opposite to what the winds normally were doing. So they're discussing the best way for pattern entry and at what altitude. So I hear this and I got like pieces from separate puzzles and put them together and was like, oh no, this is not good. I'm way low, like super, super low. And I'm like, oh, and one of their instructors was like, if you're in trouble and you're in the glider, like, and we're low, just speed up, just push forward, just speed up, just pick up your speed and like get where you need to go. And that is a good trick. That saved me that day. It was really, really narrow. I made it safely. And then when I got on the ground, they were like, what was going on with that? They were like, so why'd you do that? And I was like, well, I don't think I'm gonna do that again. I mean, I was so close. I mean, I think I probably felt like I was like feet away from the trees. I probably wasn't, but it certainly was noticeably lower than everybody else. So no kidding.
Got their attention as well as your own.
Got my attention.
Okay. Is that the closest oh shit you ever had in a glider?
In the glider, probably. I feel like the gliders that we were flying were pretty forgiving as students. So that was like pretty cool. But
And what's your record time in a glider?
somewhere around 3 hours. And that's in the 126.
That's impressive. That's
I
an
got
accomplishment.
the Soaring Society of America has like different student awards. So I have my B badge and I forget what the requirements are, but that was something cool. I still have it. I have like a little hat that I wear to the airport and it's got like an AOPA pin and the glider badge. So no one ever knows what it is, but I'm still proud of it.
Well, and that's all that matters, you know.
Yeah. No, I think it's super cool. It's a nice nod to the beginnings, you know.
Exactly. There you go.
So when with you coming out and now all of a sudden the bug's bitten you, okay?
Yeah.
So what were the obstacles at that point for you? And what sort of things transpired that maybe you had to overcome some obstacles to get to where you were going to go?
Yeah. So I think in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do as like a career. I didn't really care that much about school, like really at all. I did some of my homework sometimes and like whatever. And then my parents were like, so you can't do this anymore if you just have like terrible grades all the time. So I think like finding the motivation to like see that I want to do something and then like actually follow through and like get good grades in school and start realizing that not only is this something I really love and that I was like, doing really well at, I wanted to, be able to pursue it in the future. So how do I get from point A where I don't care about school to now I have to study for a written exam, I have to study for a check ride. What does that look like? So getting from point A to point B, I think for me was just like that academic, finding like the drive to like want to be good at something and like want to fulfill like continuing with it and everything like that.
And and that's such a key point. It's, I think for a lot of young people, it's all of it. It's when you find that moment where, okay, this is what I want to do. And this is, you then make out that map. And, it kind of reminds me back to RePete's and Nasty. And, what it was one of his things, start with the end in mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then map everything backwards from there, and it's like, I think back to that. And when Nasty said, we mapped out, what courses I was going to have to take and what did I have to do to get myself into the Naval Academy. And, same thing here, what
like
am I going to have to do? Yeah.
What are you going to do? Get in the plane and go, I think I'm going to go to this airport. We'll see what happens. Like, it doesn't quite work,
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get there with some luck, like
you got to have a plan and you got to fly that plan. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Good point. All right. So yeah. And I always say, we said you can get your license if you bring us good grades. And I like to say I should have promised her something cheap like a pony. So
yeah, probably.
So, oh well. So do you remember your first lesson or your first couple of lessons? And
I remember my first lesson. I don't remember a lot about the first lesson. In powered flight? Yes, my first lesson was in a 172. And I, again, started in gliders. And so now I'm like 16 or 17 maybe for my first lesson for powered
16,
flight.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and he goes, so can you start it? And I was like, I didn't even know it had keys, man. Like, sure. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there like, okay, so what do I do?
What do you need the engine for? That's for
wimps.
I
was exactly. And so I'm like, okay, sure. And so he's sitting there and he's talking me through it and he's like, okay, mixture rich. And I'm like, we're going to have to start from square one. I'm lost. And so he was like, okay, we'll talk about this later. I'm going to start really quickly and then we can go like fly. And I was like, cool, that's what I want to do anyways. Like, and so I remember we went and did like some stalls and like turns, like level turns and whatnot, and kind of just figuring out like where is the airport versus where are there landmarks so that you can find the airport.
Sure. Yeah, because this was at a different airport than your gliders.
Yeah, this is like this is like hours away. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of the first starting point. Was I was just kind of sitting there and he was like, okay, so add a little bit of power, and I'm like, I don't know how. How much? Yeah. I don't know. It kind of scared me because it was like, I feel like in gliders, you use a lot of, you fly with your seat in your ears, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, this sounds bad. It sounds really loud. It sounds wrong. Like, I don't. And so I feel like I remember being like a little bit thrown off by the noise of like the engines, like the power settings being different and stuff, and just like the different feeling of it. But
let me ask you this:
gravity's your engine in a glider.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But even with an engine, don't you? And I like the way you put it. You fly with your seat in your ears. Are you not doing the same thing with an engine?
Oh, you 100% are. I think that it just like there was still connections for me to make about the two experiences that I had not, fully processed and like come around on.
Yeah.
But since then, a common like commercial check ride maneuver is like the power off 180. So you're in the pattern, you're flying around, and they just pull your power while you're in the pattern. And if you've flown a glider, that's really easy because that's what you do every time. So things like that came in really helpful.
Yeah. Oh, tell about the time you had to explain to an instructor what the turbulence was. I love this story.
Oh, so this is like one of my first lessons at college, and I'm starting as an instrument student, and we're going around. It's Florida, so we're flying. We're like in the practice area, and there's like big parking lots under us where we are doing, I don't know, some hold or something, and we're sitting there, and he goes, "Man, it's turbulent today." And I was like, "That's lift." And he goes, "How do you know?" And I was like, "Well, that wing popped up. Our VSI spiked. Close your eyes and feel it, man." like, and he was like,
awesome.
"Wait, really?" And he was like, "I've never thought about that." And I was like, "You should take this now and like think about it for your next couple of flights, because I promise you there is so like it's all like convective activity. It's all lift."
Yeah.
Which was like
That's why
kind
I'm
of
thrilled that you
something he'd
actually
never
started.
thought about.
Yeah, that's why I'm thrilled that you started in gliders, because it gives you the basics of how an airplane actually works. And
Right.
I still think that's maybe the most valuable,
Yeah.
like the most valuable
Yeah,
flying I've ever done.
And that's one reason why the Air Force Academy, I think they start off with gliders.
Yeah.
That's part of their curriculum. So,
Well, they get one thing right, at least. So.
yeah, exactly.
Zoomies.
They have carpet on their floors. I mean,
Right?
what kind of a school is that?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They don't have to buff their floors.
Yeah, well, I do know this too. So you started down at Hampton in the 172, but
Yep.
they were trying to drain my bank account faster than anything else, and that's when we decided that the way to go would be to actually buy a plane. That it would be cheaper in the long run per hour to get you your private ticket and some experience. So we wound up doing that. It was cool, and I highly recommend that to anybody that has that opportunity in life. We had a daddy-daughter trip across the United States, continental United States together. And so tell us about that trip, if you would, Becca, because this is at the beginning of your learning, you're working on your private.
Yeah, so I've got like 2 hours total time in like a powered aircraft. And now we fly out to Victorville, California. And you've been flying like wide body, like big airliners, and now you got your couple hours in a Grumman, and now we're out there and we're in California. And the first thing I remember is we're standing there, and I was like, "Oh, it's hot. It's gonna be hot in there." And that it was. I think that
It was like
watching you
108 the
flight
day we
plan-
landed in Tucson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. But I think that trip and like, well, one, getting to spend time with you and like do something that we both really enjoy was really cool. That was really like memorable. I still get all the pictures and stuff come up sometimes on my phone, which are like some of the coolest photos I've taken, really. But
and I forgot, I had flown out in the desert Southwest a lot when I was flying in the Marines, and you're seeing all this
It's
wide open
incredible.
desert and saguaro cactus and all that for the first time ever.
We're in Tucson at like the airport diner, and I show up, and I've never been to Arizona before. Like, this is my first time. I've never been to the desert, not once in my life. And so we're standing there, and I take a picture of this cactus that has to be like 2.5 feet tall and like maybe a foot around. And I'm like, whoa, that is so cool. And then the waitress,
2.5
she
or
literally looks
25
at me.
feet?
Well, there was the one out front, but there was one at the entrance. I haven't even seen the one out front yet. This is like the little one in the corner.
Oh, okay.
And so I walk in and I'm like, wow, that's the biggest cactus I ever seen. And the waitress looks at me and she goes, like, she was
You don't
like,
get
thought
it
I was
much,
like,
do you, honey?
yeah, she like looked at me like
Gave
I
you
was
a whole bunch of stink eye.
crazy. She thought I was like being like rude possibly and like messing with her. And I was like, I'm from New Hampshire. I've never seen this before. Like, and I have that picture of that little cactus. But yeah, the saguaro cactus was nuts. I have never seen something like that ever, and I was just like blown away. And just like things like that you know you don't expect to like experience on like a trip across the country in like a small plane. But the
so
joy of
the
seeing a
flying.
cactus
The
for
cactus
the
were
first
cool.
time. Yeah.
Chat with tell people what the flying was like. What did
So-
you learn? What did you learn about flying across country like that?
So I think that the biggest thing for me was I was really intimidated by the radios because when you're gliding, they give you, I have like a handheld radio. So I hop on and I'm like, blue glider in the pattern. And everyone's like, great, perfect. However, you're like picking up flight plans and talking to different people and like reporting your altitude and stuff. And I was like, that's like, these are all new terms to me, like the phraseology of everything. And like all of that, I think it was like exciting, but it was like a little bit intimidating because I was like, wow, I have a long way to like get here. And so it was really fun. It was really eye-opening. I think it was very genuine to like the cross-country experience, you know what I mean? So I feel like later on in, you know, working on my private and like working on all of my other ratings, just the amount of like knowledge and experience from that helped me later on be able to like more effectively doing a cross-country flight was pretty neat. We did have an issue with like our exhaust pipe cracking over Texas.
Yeah.
And we had an electrical issue. And so watching Dad kind of like delegate like little things to me and like finding an airport to go land at like as soon as practical and, you know, working with the controller to navigate like what could have potentially been like an emergency or like a more dangerous situation and like that there's like no reason to like panic. We just kind of need to address the issue and take care of it the best we can. And once we're on the ground, we can do more. We can panic then.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, panic after it's over.
Exactly. Yeah, you can have your moment to freak out once it's done.
I got a question here for RePete. So you've now flown out to California. You've picked up this plane.
Yep.
And you've got your daughter with you. And, you know, so how many hours in the Grumman did you have when you took off?
So in a cheetah, I had like 5.5 hours when we took off. Now, that being said, I got my private ticket when I was in college. So I had some, you know, I had a few hundred hours in light civil.
This is more, my question is more centered around the aircraft, but you're now climbing into an aircraft that is effectively, you now know that aircraft inside and out and its characteristics and what's normal, what's not. So you're now climbing into basically an unproven or an unfamiliar aircraft to you with your daughter. And so what's going through your head there?
So I had, first of all, we had a solid pre-buy on the airplane by a guy who was considered a Grumman guru out on the West Coast. So I didn't have any qualms about the airplane itself. It had 40 hours on a brand new factory rebuilt engine. You know, it had been gone over thoroughly, or so we thought. So we were happy about that, or I was happy about that. I was also uber conservative. For instance, when we took off out of Victorville, I want to say there was like a 10 or 12,000 foot runway, and they asked me if I wanted an intersection departure, and I'm like, I'll take the whole thing. No intersections for RePete. Not on my very first flight with my daughter in this airplane. Hell no. So
that was actually a great lesson on density altitude too, out in Arizona.
Yeah.
That was an incredible lesson on that.
Yeah, we were not climbing fast anywhere out of there. Yeah, in fact, in fact, that day that we weren't aware of the exhaust leak until after we landed. So we landed at the nearest suitable because we had a alternator was not charging the battery.
Yeah.
And we don't know why. So we were losing battery charge, so we needed to land, and we did.
We're shedding electrical.
And it was shut.
Everything
it was
that's not necessary.
Yeah, lights were going off all on their own because I've got switches in that airplane that are load shedding switches. So when the voltage drops, they'll just drop offline, which was cool because it allowed me to keep the radio. And of course, as soon as we landed, and shut down. And the gal goes, "Hey, you want to pull in the hangar because we're going to have storms tonight. So if it'll start it up and bring it over. And if not, then you're going to have to pull it across the ramp and into the hangar." So I started it up. And of course, the alternator was charging, which brings to Pete, one of Pete's adages, the only thing worse than an intermittent electrical problem, or the only thing worse than an electrical problem is an intermittent electrical problem. Yeah. Because, good luck chasing that down. So we started the next day, and it was charging, and so we took the airplane 200 miles south to the other Grumman guru in the south central United States, and that's when they found the exhaust crack, which was, you can die of asphyxiation or fire, your choice. So we replaced the muffler, and
well, and that's even a little more insidious because it's actually more so carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yep, absolutely.
And we were like ripping
and we're not sure we didn't have it the first day.
Yeah, we felt bad. Like we landed and we were like, we ate dinner and then we went to the hotel room and we were both like, oh, I feel awful.
Yeah, we had a headache we could not shake no matter what.
You had carbon monoxide poisoning.
And I had a carbon monoxide monitor in the airplane. So that shouldn't have been, we should have gotten a warning on that, but we didn't. And then the next day we felt fine. And that's when we diverted for the electrical problem and then wound up going down into, it's called Fletch Air down in Fredericksburg, Texas. They're big Grumman guru down there.
Well, that's when we met my CFI too. My CFI.
Yeah, so this was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was
this was a random pick. So we're sitting there and I go, "Dad, I thought we wanted the strobes on." And he goes, "Yeah, we did. Put them back on." And I'm sitting there and they flip back off. And I was like, I don't know that much, but I know that that's not right. And so I was like, "Dad, they just switched themselves off." Right. And then he's like, "Oh, yeah." And so we start troubleshooting and like trying to figure everything out. We see the alternator light. And so he's like talking to ATC, flying the airplane. And now I'm delegated, find the nearest airport that we can land at, like safely. So I'm sitting there on the iPad, I'm learning ForeFlight, and I pick the airport, and lucky us, it was Wilbarger County in Vernon, Texas, and the lady who greeted us on the ground was Mary, and so that's when
Mary
I first
Latimer,
met her, and
we had her on the show a few weeks back,
and she told us about her, her experience as a flight instructor and everything that she does, and her, like, she has Gift Academy, which is girls in flight training, and I don't know where it is now, but she had a pink like 172, which was awesome. The pink 172 was so memorable. But so that's when we met Mary, and I got her business card, and then just recently I went back down to Vernon to do my CFI with her. So she was my instructor for that, which was a crazy stroke of luck to land at that airport with a woman who has so much experience and knowledge and like loves teaching.
She's forgotten more about aviation than you and I will ever learn put together, I think,
yes.
Stick. She is amazing. So, she was episode
absolutely.
162.
Yep. So, and you know what? That was meant to happen. It's I don't think that was
seriously.
I don't think that was necessarily an accident. That was just meant to happen.
Yeah.
So
no, that was like one of those weird things where it really came back and like served us very well to like have had this whole experience and had this happen.
So
I mean,
all right.
Obviously not like in the time. It's one of those things where you're like, I would rather not be dealing with this. I don't want to do this right now. And I feel like that's kind of like a lot of aviation is you're like, oh my gosh, like just you don't want to deal with something. You don't like something is going on where you're like not loving it, and then it comes back around, and you're like, well, that worked out, didn't it?
Yeah.
So what was the hardest? Okay, go ahead. You're sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that was the cool thing. For me, it was letting Becca see that these things happen in airplanes and they're not a big deal. You just do what you know. You learn what you need to do. But then it turned out to be fortuitous that we had Mary.
Exactly. Yeah. It was very full circle.
Yeah. So let's keep going. Let's get back to your private, how you got your private, and then some of the challenges of your instrument. And then I want to hear about your commercial check ride that you opened with. Because that was interesting.
So private was done the rest of the way in the Tiger, which the Tiger is a super fun airplane. I think it's a little bit challenging for some of like the precision landings, like the short field and soft field landings to hit your points and stuff because it's just so slick. So you float a lot. And so as like a private student, I remember like that was kind of challenging, but it is a really fun airplane. So I started off, I had an instructor who didn't really have any, like he wasn't using a syllabus, there wasn't really any direction. Like we would go fly once every couple weeks and that was it. And I was like, okay, well, I want to get done. I feel like I'm not like getting anywhere. So my cousin went through ATP's flight program, and he is a brand new CFI, hasn't had any students yet. And so I was like, how about he comes and like stays with us, and then he can do private with me, and then I can be his first like check ride sign off, right? And like it'll be good for both of us. He gets the experience, the first student. I'm already like, I know how to land and stuff, like the like really sketchy part is out of the way, you know, like I know how to start the plane now. I like
Okay.
we're past that.
I know what mixture is.
Yeah.
Yes,
She had soloed.
yeah.
She had soloed.
Exactly.
She just hadn't been signed off
Yeah.
for local solo on her own
So-
very much. So
I
Right.
needed to like clean up, finish up like the actual like hard requirements. So like the night cross country and like silly stuff like that. Just needed to get like done and like signed. And then I went up for my check ride in July of 2021. And then I went to Embry-Riddle in August of 2021. So pretty close, but I made it.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
what in that whole process, what was the hardest thing to learn?
I think the hardest thing to learn, like during private, was I think the hardest thing was to like have like the confidence to know that like I've been working on this for a long time and I am good at this. I can go to the check ride and I know what I'm talking about and I can fly the plane and I'm going to show them that like I've got what it takes. And I think that it took until after my private because that's the first check ride you take, right? So you don't really know what to expect going into it. Like you haven't done this before. So going in, you're like a little nervous that they're kind of trying to like trip you up, which mostly they're not. They're trying to make sure that like you're competent and safe and everything. And so finding like the confidence in myself to know that like I am safe and competent was kind of difficult. Again, it's just like hard because you're going into something that is completely unknown.
It's a bit of an abstract thing to have to learn, you know?
Yeah.
So, and
Well,
I
you can't
think
go like
that's-
observe a check ride or anything. You can't go sit
Right.
in and watch someone's check ride.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
unless you're a Fed, but that's another story.
whole other
nother
can of
story
worms.
here at the end.
Oh,
We'll
There's
get to that.
My
there's a
gosh.
hidden story.
Yeah.
yeah, really.
Okay. All right.
All right. So you got your private, and then you went to
Yep.
school, and so you just graduated, in fact, in May from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical
Yep.
University.
And congratulations to that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Indeed.
So
Cheers.
that
Thank
is
you.
And
super
in Daytona
exciting.
Beach.
Yeah. So hats off to
Yeah.
you. We're so proud of you, and I think it's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank
So,
you. Yeah, it's
So-
quite
So
a
you did the
quite a
instrument,
journey.
and then,
yeah.
keep going. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say Embry-Riddle was quite a journey. I think it was. I learned a lot about myself and a lot about flying, and you know, patience.
And not
is
all of
certainly
it.
not
Not
a
all of
virtue.
them easy
Yeah.
lessons.
No, not at all.
You know, it's
not at
so
all.
in full disclosure. So my youngest is now down at Embry-Riddle as we speak, and
He'll be
So
coming
my
on
money-
next.
my money and him are there. But the one thing, having toured that facility and looked at the program and looked at everything, short of going to, not that Navy flight school is necessarily better, but short of Navy flight school, it's the closest thing I've seen on the civilian side that actually would match that. Everything
Some
to
of
like
the-
hyperbaric chambers
Yeah.
and the simulators that they have available to them really impressive school.
Yeah,
And
you can't wander down to the local 4,000-foot airport and get that experience. You just can't.
The hyperbaric chamber is for anyone. If anyone goes to Embry-Riddle, when you take flight phys, do the hyperbaric chamber. It's really valuable information, to be honest, but also it is kind of funny because they have like research that they're doing and all that, and they have you like try and like do the alphabet, and you're like writing off the side of the page and stuff.
Yeah. So explain to people what the hyperbaric chamber is, Becca.
Yeah. Okay. So it's you walk in to this little lab in the College of Aviation, right? And you walk in and it's this weird like glass box. You look at it, it looks kind of strange, and it's got a bunch of seats and like the oxygen masks that would be on like a commercial plane, So that's how it's set up. You just walk in and that's what it is. And then so they give you like a little briefing of like you have a pulse oximeter on your finger, so you know that you're not like actually suffocating. But what they do is they put you in this room and they slowly decrease like the pressure until you're at like essentially it is mimicking being at altitude. So it's mimicking that you're at like 15,000 feet. It's like you're in like a vacuum essentially, yeah. And so you're sitting there and they give you like a worksheet and like a color wheel and all this stuff, and they're sitting there and they start with the oxygen mask on while they like start to suck all the air out. So you're sitting there and the professor is like talking to you and like explaining what's going on and like talking about different symptoms and what to look out for, and here's the procedure of how we're going to do this, and if your pulse ox gets below X, you need to put your mask on, and if I see that you don't, I'm putting the mask on you, so you have a choice here. So that was essentially it. But we're sitting there and they were testing if it could go like higher the day that I did it, which was don't know why. Yeah. And I think the best part of my experience was one, now I know my symptoms for hypoxia and like being like oxygen deprived. Super common is like euphoria and stuff, but also my color vision goes away, which is really interesting. Your colors fade really quick. But yeah, so we're doing the worksheet, we're like writing off the side of the page. The professor comes up to me and he goes, "Rebecca, could you fly a plane right now?" And I looked at him and I said, "Probably not well, but I think I could." And he goes, "Put your mask on." And I was like,
I think somebody at some point might have talked about color vision and the effects of hyperbaric.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing until I did it, which was fascinating.
We had somebody on that might have talked about it on the show, but that's neither here nor there. So. Yeah, but yeah, it is very interesting how that does. There's we're obviously not going to go into that, but if you want to go back and listen, there's an episode that we had that I talked about all that. So.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, there's that. I mean, there's a bunch of other facilities too. Like I have time in a CRJ and like the full motion simulator and stuff, which is really awesome to have as like not only just experience under my belt now that I'm trying to like, fly things that are bigger than like a Cessna in the next couple years here, but like to put on my resume to show, hey, like I've got different experiences from my time in school. And like I made that time worthwhile where I was like, actively seeking out the opportunities to, get more experience and like do the spatial awareness training and do the, the CRJ simulator and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get then into that. You did your commercial, you did your, you did your instrument, you did your commercial, and then you did your multi. Yep. All in school. You didn't do your CFI at Riddle. You chose not to do that, and that actually turned out to be a good thing. But which of those three, instrument, commercial, multi, was the most difficult? And then I want you to circle back to your opening story about your commercial check ride, because I think people could take a lesson from this in their own check rides in life.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, they all have their own unique challenges because private, you you finally you get your private and you're feeling good. You're like, you know what? I know what I'm doing, right? And like,
Yeah.
you do,
And then
you
her
know?
freshman year, she had dudes hitting her on her pilot.
Yeah. No, it was the worst. People come to like our dorm room, and we were like the only girls in our hall, and they'd be like, "We're pilots," and I'd be like, "Oh, how many like are you on instrument yet?" And they'd be like, "No, my discovery flight's next week," and I'd be like, "Oh, brother, get out of here, go home."
Yeah, yeah. The pattern
But
is full.
anywho,
You
yeah,
can take a go around.
yeah, and so instruments challenging just because it's like, okay, everything you just learned about looking outside, we're not doing that anymore. And now you're gonna have to like look at these charts and interpret them and whatever. So that was challenging, and I think that might have been the most challenging course for me at Embry-Riddle, just because I hadn't been flying the Cessna. I had 2 hours in the Cessna, so we're swapping planes, we're swapping avionics, so we're going from the six-pack to a G1000, and I already wasn't super comfortable with like the GPS or anything. That just wasn't my strong suit. That was not my bag. And now we're doing Embry-Riddle procedures, which are completely new. And I'm in a new area, new part of the country entirely. Daytona's airspace is like notoriously congested because of all the flight training. So now I have to like go from I just like announced that I'm on the taxiway and like what I'm doing and stuff. Now I have to pick up a clearance to like even go taxi. So that was totally like just flipped upside down like my everything, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I don't know what like I couldn't go do this on my own. Like I felt very much like overwhelmed, in over my head. Like I didn't know what I was doing. Even though I think that like from gliding and everything, like my prior experience, I think that I did have a leg up. I had good experience. I had good flight time. I like doing it. I'm interested in it. But now I'm completely in this new environment, and I'm like, oh no.
Not only that, but just
So
instrument flight in and of itself has a whole separate language.
it completely, the clearances
when you think
are
about it.
insane. Yeah.
You
The
know.
first time I got like a circling approach, I think like I don't even know, like my stomach dropped. I was like, there's no way, there's no way.
Flying down to the Daytona 500.
There's a clip of this kid asking for a night solo on ATC, like live ATC, in the Daytona airspace, and it's either the night before the 500 or the night after, so all the like private jets are going out, and the controller goes, seriously? No. And like that's the entire clip. Is the controller was like, absolutely you're not. Like, go back. Oh, yeah, it gets.
Yeah, we're not going to do
busy.
students in the pattern while I'm trying to launch 50 corporate jets.
Yeah,
Go figure.
exactly.
So,
All the NASCAR teams.
yeah. All right. What, multi, what was multi like?
So multi is like at Embry-Riddle, they don't have as many multi-engine planes, and they fly them so much. So those planes are getting like couple hundred hours at least a month, right? They're flying from like 5 a.m. until midnight or later every night, every day. 24/7. They're really only closed for like a couple days at Christmas and like New Year's. That's it. So other than that, those planes are constantly run, almost all of them. So with that comes a lot of maintenance, and Embry-Riddle is growing a lot right now. So there's some, to be honest, there's some growing pains, especially with that part of the program, just because there is like a limited number of planes and they're being used so much. And then the maintenance, they use the DA-42, the Diamond. So it's got European parts. So there's some challenges with it. It's a great plane. It's super fun to fly. So that was challenging. And then I had some difficulties with my instructor, to be honest. Like he and I were not a good fit, and that's a whole other like conversation.
Yeah,
so that was challenging.
I guess what I'm asking about is what was it like flying a multi-engine airplane, not only for the first time, but getting the feel of it, and what?
Oh, I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it. The only thing I didn't like was like my instructor at one point because so part of multi is the minimum control speed demo with one engine, which is notoriously fatal if you
Yeah.
happen
If you
to
screw it
encounter
up.
this not intentionally. Yeah. So it's a demonstration that you're supposed to do. So there was one flight, I think we did it maybe 4 times in a row. And what happens when you do this, which like, so you have a critical engine, which is an engine that's worse if you lose it, because it has all these adverse effects if you lose an engine, that's bad. But this one is worse because of like these reasons. So you turn off your critical engine and you slow down to essentially to very close to what your minimum control speed would be, which is where the point where you would no longer have like authority over the aircraft, which is bad. Obviously, we don't want to get to that. That would be horrendous. However, part of this maneuver is you have to step on the rudder in order to maintain your coordination, your heading and everything. And now you're one engine out. So you're fighting all of these forces. And so you're standing I was standing on the rudder. And I'd say about 100 pounds of force. So you're absolutely just standing on it. And I remember the last one, he was like, you need to be more on the rudder. And I was like, I like can't see straight right now. Like my leg is going to fall off. Like so it's a low wing plane, but it's like a step up. Like the wing is probably like at the wing root, like above my hips, and there's a step that you have to climb up. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to climb out of the plane later. Like I'm going to like fall out and like fall off of the wing. Like I can't, like I have no more leg muscles left.
My legs are rubber.
So,
Make it stop.
yeah. So that was tough.
All right.
But I did like multi. I liked the plane. I liked flying it. I thought the maneuvers it wasn't anything new at that point. It was just, pretty much mostly to do with VMC is what you're worried about when you swap over to multi.
Yeah. So VMC is not visual meteorological conditions. It's minimum controllable airspeed. So yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And if your stall speed is above your min control airspeed, then you die. So
pretty bad.
You got yaw and stall, and good luck trying to get a twin out of a spin.
Right.
It can be done in some occasions, but more often than not, it's bad. So that's why I'm still shocked that the FAA requires that in anything other than a simulator. But that's just, RePete's opinion creeping in here.
Well, it's a demo, It's a demo. Maybe do it a couple times. I don't know about all the time.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's get to your check ride, and then we'll find out. We'll talk about your CFI thing to close it out with, because that I mentioned about no one gets to watch check ride but a Fed, but that's a whole thing. So tell us about your commercial check ride.
So my commercial check ride, I had been trying to finish up all summer, right? And so it's like fall, and I'm like ready to go on my check ride, and at Embry-Riddle the check ride system is for private instrument and multi are all done by check airmen with Embry-Riddle, not like a designated examiner from the FAA, but they are like they're designated through the 141 program to do the check rides. So the commercial check ride, you get 2 check rides. So you get end of course at Embry-Riddle, which is a check ride, or it's a stage check essentially, but it is the commercial check ride out of the ACS. They give you that. And once you pass that, you get to go do it all over again with a designated examiner. So you get it's 2 for 1. You get the joy of having 2 check rides for 1 rating. So finally, once you get through the like in-house check ride, which can take some time, you have to wait for an examiner, which also takes time. So I think before my commercial check ride, I flew like 4 times in 2 months or something, like ridiculous. One of them was the check ride. Like, so I'm feeling like kind of, bothered at this point. I just want to get this done. I haven't really flown a bunch. The weather's been fighting me, and that's how check rides go. I feel it's always bad weather. So we get scheduled. I get the examiner, and we get through the ground portion. We get through the oral and everything's fine and good. and all the paperwork, and we get keys and start to go out, and I'm like looking at the weather, and I'm like, it's doable. It's not undoable. It's not unsafe or anything, but there certainly is like showers in the area and like some storm cells kind of like building up off to the side that could, pose a problem later. So Embry-Riddle is in Daytona, so they have great weather all the time. So a lot of like when weather is like this, a lot of times kids will like, not go. So we're like one of the few people on the ramp. We get in the plane, we get moving, and we're doing maneuvers. We're doing like a fake cross country to, I forget, some airport in southern Florida. And he goes, okay, you're having engine roughness. You have a plane full of passengers. Figure it out. Okay, so I'm on the other side of this airport. I'm to the east, I think, or no, sorry, I'm on the wrong side of the airport to be entering the pattern, essentially. So it's an uncontrolled airport because this is the nearest airport, and if I'm having an emergency and I have a plane full of paying passengers, I'm gonna land. And that's, I think, where he wanted the check ride to go, was to, drop into an airport and start doing, precision takeoffs and landings. And that makes sense. So I go in and we're sitting there and he goes, so in a class Gulf airport, you can't enter on the right side unless it's published that way. And I said, where does it say that? We have and so he starts telling me, he's like, well, you can't do that. That's not legal, whatever. And I've announced multiple times on the radio, I'm like, simulated emergency, whatever my tail number is. I've made probably 4 calls at this point, and there's nobody in the pattern. It's not like it's like people trying to like cut in and like, depart and all this. Empty, silent. This airport has 0 people. So I'm like, hang on. I go, stop. I'm going to land. And then we can pull off. There's a run-up area over there. We'll pull off. We'll stop. And we can talk about our thought processes here. Because honestly, he was moments away from saying, this is unsatisfactory. And that is a bell that you cannot unring. Okay. So I was like, stop.
Don't talk.
Stop. Hang on. And so we go and land, and it's like a 90-degree crosswind. So the wind is not in my favor at all. It's like the landing is just like, it's fine. It was safe. But I'm sitting there and now I'm like stress sweating with this guy. And I'm like, okay, so I pull off and I go, just before anything else is said, I would just like to explain my side really quick. And here is my thought process. I said we were on the wrong side of the airport. And while I do understand that the traffic pattern is the opposite side of the airport,
yeah,
right,
it's a left pattern. At this airport, my job right now is to make sure that everybody is safe on the aircraft and that the aircraft comes back, ideally in one working piece, right? So those are my priorities. And so he goes, you know what? That's good judgment. We're gonna move on. Let's go. And so I go, okay, awesome. And so still stress sweating. The rest of the flight was, I will say, quite stressful because at that point I was like, I have to bring it. Like yeah. I have to show that I am ready and I'm prepared. As a check ride, I think the best mindset to have walking into it is like, I'm already qualified. They're just here to like sign off on it. I'm already a commercial pilot. You just need to sign the dotted line and go on your happy way, So that's kind of where my mindset is at check rides. Yeah.
Nice. All right.
That's awesome.
So you spoke up for yourself and it worked out well. So that was good. And as I recall you telling me, the rest of that check ride was actually as close to flawless as a flight as you've ever had. So that was
that was a good one. That and my multi check ride was, I've never felt so good about a check ride.
There you go.
It's funny.
So, and then the final one was, of course, you finished school and graduated, and we went back out to Wilbarger County, Texas, to Vernon, Texas, and you did your training with Mary Latimer to get your CFI. That was a lot of fun. And then we flew all the way back home, and you sat around for weeks and weeks and weeks because he said, hey, the designated examiner said, hey, can you go tomorrow? And you wrote back and said yes. And he wrote back and said,
we have to have a federal agent observing us. And I said, I should buy a lottery ticket. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm really excited for that. Yeah. And then honestly, so I don't know how many listeners.
Then it rained every Thursday for like 8 weeks.
Yeah. It did in fact rain every Thursday for 8 weeks.
So,
and guess when I was scheduled?
Yeah. Every Thursday.
Honestly.
Yeah. So you finally did one, but this was the best part. When we said no one can watch a check ride, what happened when you finally got your check ride?
So we get the check ride date, and finally it's like the weather looks like it's gonna open up for the afternoon so that we can go fly, right? So we get the check ride date, and I get a message, I think it's maybe a couple days before, and it just says, oh, hey, by the way, so your federal observer has someone observing with them. So you have 2 federal agents on the check ride. And I said, sounds good. I'll see all 3 of you on Thursday. And then I showed up, and the weather did not, in fact, cooperate that day.
Yeah. Well,
so we had to discontinue.
She brought donuts.
I tried my best.
Yeah, she brought donuts.
Never show up empty-handed.
Right?
No,
Exactly.
I know. It was really, it was a sight to behold. Me and the examiner and two feds sitting in on my check ride.
Yeah. So you did the first
And they
half
were
of the
really
oral,
nice, too.
and
They
then
were
you went
great,
back and did the second half of the oral because you canceled. You stopped progress once you saw the weather wasn't.
Yeah, the weather just wasn't going to cooperate.
Then you wound up doing the second one, and then the good news was the Fed decided not to ride in the back of our airplane for the ride. So, but you went out and did your CFI.
I got it done.
Yeah,
it was. Honestly,
and getting your CFI on your check ride, your first check ride, is not a guaranteed. That's the most failed check ride, I understand.
I'm pretty sure it is. Honestly, I think that the CFI check ride is like, you already know all the things. You've already done all this, right?
Yeah.
So now it's, how do we make it happen for somebody else? And that's the really challenging part, is like finding the words to, explain something like density altitude to someone who's, doesn't know how to start the plane. Like, how do we get from point A to point B, and how do we like make sure that everybody is, on track and understanding?
Very cool. Well, congrats. And I've gotten notes of congratulations, and they're proud of you. And so this has been a thrill to have you on.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So what would you recommend to anyone out there considering this? Maybe they think it's a financially undoable or anything like that. What's your advice to a young person thinking of flying? So to start, I personally would recommend anybody who's interested, go out and, if let's say, you get into Embry-Riddle, or you get into, flight school, Joe Schmo flight school, and you're really excited to start, one, make sure you do like a discovery flight first. This should not be the first time you're getting in the plane. And that's not like an uncommon thing. There are a lot of people who do that, where they get into like a flight school, or, a program that like takes them from 0 to hero. They've never like, they've only ever been in seat 13B. That's their flight, that's their flight experience, Yeah. So I think getting out there, just trying it out, seeing if you like it. Flying gliders was honestly the most valuable flight time, I think, of my entire training. Yeah. It's super economical, relatively speaking. It is really affordable. My other recommendation...
eliminate the gas cost, sort of.
Yeah. No, you're really just paying the rental and instructor rate, which is awesome. And a tow fee, but separate issue. I would say there's a lot of money. There's a lot of scholarships out there to be had. If you just apply for them, there's a lot of great opportunities for scholarships. There's a lot of great opportunities to start your journey. The other thing is trying to figure out what do you want to do with this? Do you just want to be a private pilot and fly around with your friends, or what? Is that your goal? Then make sure that you have the funding to get your private, and then it never expires, so you might as well go do it. If you want to be an airline pilot, let's sit down and think about, do I have the funding? Can I get the funding in the future? What's in the way, and how can I mitigate those problems before it becomes like a big problem and I'm halfway through and I'm stuck because something's preventing me from finishing.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this, and this is not aimed at you, Becca, because I know you're, still thinking about what you want to do or how you want to get there. But if I'd have known then what I know now, I would have gone Air National Guard. Just no two ways about it. I'd have done anything and everything to get into an Air National Guard unit somewhere to go fly cool airplanes and have somebody else pay for that training. So yeah, that's always a path for someone to consider too. So very difficult to get into, but if you're motivated and present a strong package, you can do it. So,
well, the other thing too, I think, is not get discouraged, because like you start out and you're like, this is what I want to do, and the amount of times I had like things happen in my flight training, or an instructor that I like had a hard time, like either the learning style like wasn't lining up or what, going from all of those challenges and not letting them like essentially like weed me out of wanting to do this career. I think that, just keeping in the back of your mind, like why you're doing this is really the only way that you're going to like get to the end. Because there are a lot of challenges, and progress really isn't linear as a pilot. For 3 steps forward, you're going to take a step back, and then you're going to take 10 steps forward and you're going to feel really great. And then guess what? We're 7 steps back. Like it just constantly, there's so much going on. Yeah. There's so much going on that, there's a lot of moving parts, whether an airplane is down or you get sick.
It is just not linear. So
there's a lot of roadblocks.
That is a true statement, and then some. There's always something that's going to come up.
Right.
Yeah.
100%
Booz,
of the
we want to thank you for coming on with us. We probably need to land this airplane, but I hope others that hear you are thinking about flying go out and take a discovery flight and learn that this is something that's doable. It's not beyond your reach. If you're a young person, this is something that could be in your
look
future
out the window.
Yeah, exactly.
Look out the window for your job.
And
cool.
We got the question: how did we get Booz?
We got to do that. So this is all on me.
I don't even know.
If anybody's seen the movie Monsters, Inc., the little girl in that show was Boo. And when Becca was a toddler and younger, she looked like Boo from Monsters, Inc. So it was always
There we
Boo.
go. Awesome.
How's my little Boo? And then it became Boozer's a snoozer, because she's asleep, and just shortened it to Booze. So it isn't her drinking habits yet, but that's how she became Booze. And so she has a squadron mug with her call sign on it of Booze, or Boozer, actually, I think it is. But yeah, so.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we got to get some thank yous out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much for spending time with us today, Booz. We're deeply appreciative of that. And then,
and
for sharing the story. That's going to inspire somebody else.
Glad to be here anytime. I hope so.
We'll have you back. There's a lot more good stuff there. I happen to know for a fact. So thank you to all the active duty and veterans who have sacrificed so much to give to the country that we all live in and take our freedoms for granted with. Thank you to the families of those veterans who kept the home fires burning so that those veterans could go out and do their job. And especially to those who are families of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. We know you have an empty place in your heart and a seat at your table. And that's something that's difficult to live with, but we're grateful to all those who have sacrificed so much so that we can have so much.
And we got to say thank you to Badass.
Absolutely. Some amazing photos that man is
lets us use his amazing artwork and is always there to support us in any way that he can, so which is great. And then we got a merch store there, RePete.
Yeah, so there was .us/merch. Big couldn't be here today. I think he's out on the beach somewhere wearing the bikini, but got other stuff there. We got clocks. Yeah. We got beer glasses. We got
cozies
shot glasses. We got beach towels.
Hoodies.
We got all kinds of stuff. Go to the sarahwest.us.
Cooler weather's coming. Get yourself a hoodie.
Yeah, the hoodie is fantastic. I'm wearing one of the T-shirts. You got ball caps. Get yourself some cool merch. And then if you want to throw money our way because you've lost all sense of financial responsibility in your life, how would you do that?
Well, you can go to So There I Was at Patreon, and you can donate some money to us that way.
Yep, serahwest.us/Patreon. That'll get you there. So, yeah. And, and I don't have it in front of me. Keep going. So talk about those guys there. And I've got to thank you that I've got to get out here pretty quick. Okay. So,
Badass, also pointed out that we need to give a shout out to the 223 guys who are on their the last Harrier Mew, apparently. So
yeah, that's right. They're heading out now. So
and one other thing. So if you go to our Facebook page, and I'll find out some other place to put it. If you wanted to download the banner, I have that made up now in a high HD resolution, so that you can put that on the background on your computer if you want it.
Oh, cool. I'll get that up soon, and we'll tell people next week how to get that out there, or maybe in the preamble. By then we'll have it done. Here's what I wanted to do. So somehow about 2.5 weeks ago, Matt Loicono, I'm just going to call you Loco, dude. He threw $100 at us at solerawas.us/donate. Yeah. Loco is crazy and gave us a lot of money, and we are humbled by your generosity, sir. So thank you so much. He was a Army, I don't have it in front of me. I want to say Cobra, but he flew in the Army. I know that. We'll get more to that in the preamble. I'm sorry for fumbling this one so badly. It just occurred to me that I needed to say thank you to him. So, and then those guys in the background making all that noise.
Yeah. Those are the Dos Gringos, and there's not a bad song among them, and so check them out, because they are great. We are grateful enough they've let us use their music, and that's just awesome.
We're humbled by that. So till everyone, new lips. So till next week, everybody, don't stall during your VMC demo.
Yeah,
don't do it.
Not a good idea.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
Hold on. What'd he say, Sticks?
Said it's over.
Piece of cake. Cake.
All right, now
That's awesome.
Out.